Hey guys, in this video we're going to go ahead and cover circles and we're going to go ahead and talk about circumference and area. And it's something you guys have seen ever since you were in elementary. So it's not going to be something new, but of course we need to refresh, we need to remember how to use the formulas and what is circumference and what is area. So first of all, let's go ahead and talk about the circle and we'll talk about the different parts of a circle that you guys need to remember. And remember that the outside, right? This part, the outside of the circle, is called the circumference, right? This is called the circumference. So that's a part of the circle that you guys need to know, right? The measurement of the outside of the circle is called the circumference, right? And then the area, right, is how much, right, does the circle cover, like the inside of a circle, right? What's the space inside? So that would be considered the area. These are the two things that we're gonna actually calculate today. So before we move on, we do need to talk about the parts of the circle, and those little parts, you guys have been seeing them since you were in elementary, but let's go ahead and go over them again. Remember that we have the center of the circle, right? How do you create a circle? First of all, you need to have a center. And then you need to go around this little point the same distance. So from here to here, right? All the way across, it doesn't matter where I am. If I go to the edge of the circle, it's going to be the same distance. This little piece, right, from here to here, this is called the radius. So that's one of the things we need to remember, right? The radius. Now, of course, the radius is half of the diameter. Now, if we go back the diameter, it's going to be from one side to the other side of the circle, but you have to make sure that you go to through the center. So the whole thing is called the diameter, right? So those are the things that we need to remember, the radius and the diameter, in order for you to be able to use those formulas that we're going to talk about right now. Now, another thing that you guys need to remember is the term pi, right? The term pi, which approximately is 3.14. Of course, it keeps on going on forever and ever, but we cut it off at 3.14. And remember, pi is the number that you get when you divide the circumference, right? The circumference divided by the diameter. So you get the outside measurement and you divide it by the diameter, and you always, always, always get pi, which is approximately 3.14. So this is a very important number that we need in order to calculate the circumference, right, and the area. So if we take a look at the formulas, we have different formulas. We have the formula to get the area of a circle, right? Remember that the area would be the inside, right? If we want to find out the inside measurement, how much it covers, we would have to use this formula. And the formula is pi r squared. So we would have to get the radius which is from here to here, whatever this measures, and plug it into the formula. Now the circumference, right? If you want to find out the measurement of the outside of the circle, right? Let me go ahead and highlight that. If we want to find out the measurement, right? If I were to get a piece of string and go around, that would give me the circumference. But of course, we don't have pieces of string. We have formulas that we can use. In order for you to find the circumference, right? You could also use the radius. We just have to multiply it times 2 times pi, and then you multiply the radius. So we also need the radius to calculate the circumference. Now, if you want to get the diameter, if you want to be able to get the diameter, which is this one right here, the one that goes right through the center from corner to corner, that this would be called the diameter. If you want to get the diameter, all you need is the radius too. All you have to do is multiply the radius times 2, and you would get the diameter, right? That's the third formula that we might need today. And the radius, right? The radius, if you want to find out the radius, let's say you're not given the radius, you're given something else. Let me go ahead and clear this one really quick. Let's say we're giving we're given the radius. We want to find out the radius. We actually want to find out what it measures from here to here. But they give you the area, right? They give you the area. You could actually use the area to find out the radius. And all we have to do is plug it into this formula, which would be the square root of the area divided by pi, and you can get your radius. Now, before we get started on the examples, guys, one of the things that I'm going to mention is that we're going to keep everything in terms of pi, right? We're actually not going to multiply times 3.14 because when you start multiplying times 3.14, the number becomes a little messy. Now, can you multiply times 3.14? Yes, you can. But we could also leave it in terms of pi. For example, if I multiply 2 times pi, I could actually leave it like this and it looks a little bit nicer. But if I were to multiply 2 times pi, I actually multiply it. Let me go ahead and multiply this number right here. It would be, let me make this large. If I multiply 2 times pi, that number becomes 6.28319, and it continues going on. Of course, you could also write it as 6.28. You can approximate that number, sorry, or you can just leave it as 2 pi. So for these examples and for your assignment, we're not going to mess around with pi. We're just going to leave it there. Okay, guys, if you take a look at the examples, we have find the area of the circle. So they want us to find the area, right, of the circle. They want us to find out how much the circle covers the inside. And remember that the formula for area is pi r squared. So I'm going to go ahead and write it here. Pi r squared. That's the formula that we're going to use to find the area. And of course, the only one we need here is we actually need the radius, which is 12, and the other example is 14. We actually have the radius. So let's go ahead and figure out what that is. Now, remember that we're going to leave pi as is. We're not going to mess with pi. So the only thing I really need to work out is r squared, which means that I have to multiply the number times itself. So in this case, we have 12. So I would plug in, right, pi r squared. I plugged in the 12 in r. And of course, we only need to work out 12 squared, which is 12 times 12, is 144. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move this to the front, right? Whenever you multiply the numbers, you can actually move them one to the front, one to the back. Nothing happens. So the area for this would be 144 pi. And of course, we are going to leave it like that in terms of pi, right? Their assignment is going to be the same. Let's go ahead and work out this one. I'm going to use the formula, pi r squared, to figure out the area. I'm going to take 14 and plug it in where r is because we know that the radius is 14. So we have 14 squared, right? Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and work the 14 times 14, which is 14 squared. Let me go ahead and use my calculator for that. 14 times 14 gives us 196. So this one would be 196. Don't forget about pi. And that would be our area for that circle. Okay, guys, let's work out a little bit of more examples. They want us to work out the circumference here, right? So the circumference is the outside measurement of the circle, right? If we were to get a little piece of string and swing it around the circle, we could actually get the measurement, right? And then straighten it out. We can use a ruler for that, but we could also use the formula. And the formula says to find the circumference, right? It's going to be 2 pi r. So first of all, we need to have the radius. Circumference is 2 pi r. It's 2 times pi times r. And the only number that I really need is the radius, right? Which both are given. We have 8 and we have 8.3. So let me go ahead and do 2 pi. Instead of r, I'm going to plug in 8. And of course, remember, we're not messing with pi, so I'm only going to multiply the 2 and the 8. So 2 times 8 is 16. And of course, we're going to leave pi right there. That would be our answer. Okay, guys, the third one is 8.3. So let me go ahead and plug it in using the same formula. It's going to be to find the circumference, 2 pi, and of course, my radius is 8.3. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and multiply the 2 and the 8.3. And that should give me 16.6. And don't forget the pi. Right? So of course, yes, all you have to do is multiply the 2 times that 8.3 and you should get 16.6. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and work out some other examples. We have, they want us to find the radius. So if you remember, if we have a circle, the radius is from the center to the side of the circle. They want us to find out the radius. And they're giving us the circumference. So they're actually giving us the outside measurement, this one right here. Right. So let me see how I can work this one out. If you have the circumference, let me see. I can use this one right here, right, which is circumference equals 2 pi r. Let me go ahead and write it down. I'm going to mess around with this formula. The circumference is 2 pi r. And remember, we can move formulas around, right? We can change formulas to make it, to find out other letters. In this case, I want to find out what r is and not c because I already have the circumference, right? They're giving me the circumference. So what I can do is I can move the 2 and the pi to the other side. But remember, every time you move something from one side to the other, right, you have to do the opposite. And we're multiplying, right, all these three, 2 times pi times r. If you want to move it to the other side, all you have to do is do the opposite, which is divide by 2 pi. So you divide by 2 pi. And my new formula would be, and I'm going to go ahead and switch it around. Right? Let me go ahead and write it, and then I'll switch it around. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as r. I'm just going to put the r in the front. Right? So our formula to find the radius given the circumference would be r equals circumference divided by 2 pi. So I'm going to use that formula. And actually that formula, I put it on the assignment so you don't have to rewrite anything. When you're going to use that formula, it's going to be there. So to find the radius, we need to get the circumference and divide it by 2 pi. Of course, the only thing we're looking for here is the circumference, which they already gave us. They told us that the circumference for the circle is 20 pi. So let me go ahead and figure this one out. I'm going to put 20 pi divided by 2 pi. Well, the cool thing about this is that the pi's are going to reduce to 1, right? We can scratch these out because pi divided by pi becomes 1, so I can take those out. And all I have to do is work out the numbers, which is 20 divided by 2. 20 divided by 2 would be 10. So my radius for this circle is 10. Let me go ahead and work out another example. I already have the formula, so I'm going to use the same formula, right, which is r equals c divided by 2 pi. Let me go ahead and work this one out. R equals c divided by 2 pi. And in this case, my circumference is 22. So let me go ahead and plug that in. 22 pi divided by 2 pi. And of course, the pi is reduced to 1, so let me go ahead and get rid of those. And then how many 2's go into 22? 11. So the radius for this circle, let me go ahead and separate these two because there's two different circles. The radius for this circle would be 11. Okay. Let's go ahead and work out, I think we have, these are the last examples, and they want us to find the diameter, right? So first of all, what is the diameter? The diameter is the line that goes from side to side and that goes through the center, right? So they want us to find the diameter for this circle, and they're giving us the area, right? They're actually giving us the inside. They want us to find the diameter. So let me go ahead and check my formula bank to see if I have anything. I have the radius and the area. If they give you the area, you can find the radius. So we could actually find half of this. And then at the very end, all I would have to do is multiply times 2. So I'm going to go ahead and use this formula here. Because if you find the radius, given the area, we can just multiply the radius times 2, and it gives us the diameter. So I'm going to use r equals pi a divided by square root of a divided by pi. Let me go ahead and use this one. And also this formula is also given, guys, in your assignment. So to find the radius, given the area, we need to get the square root of the area divided by pi. So I'm using that formula. I'm going to rewrite it here again. Let me go ahead and plug in the numbers. Of course, they gave me the area, which is 64 pi, which I need to plug in right here. And it would look like this. 64 pi divided by pi, right? Remember, we have pi divided by pi. These two are going to reduce to 1. So I'm going to be left with the square root of 64. And what number times itself gives you 64? 8. So my radius would be 8. But of course, they don't want the radius. They want the diameter. So if you multiply this one times 2, we would get 16. So my diameter would be 16. Okay, guys, the last example here, we have, I'm going to use the same formula, the area of 36 pi. Radius, to find the radius, we need to get the square root of the area, which is given, divided by pi. Of course, these two are going to go ahead and reduce to 1. And I'm going to be left with the square root of 36. And what number times itself gives us 36? 6 times 6 is 36. But of course, this is the radius. We need the diameter. So I'm going to multiply this one times 2. And it's going to give me a diameter of 12. So as you can see, guys, finding the area and the circumference or the diameter and the radius, giving certain, calculations of the circle, it's not hard to find as long as you follow the formulas. And in your assignment, each question has a formula that you have to use. So if you need to come back to this video, you can go ahead and come back. Or if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask me through Google Classroom. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.